Oh, busy day. We've got all kinds of activity in our studio, offering up all kinds of information and sharing stories and sharing a bit of their knowledge with us this afternoon. It's a real treat to welcome President of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education, and Gary Rabbior, hosting a workshop in Halifax. That happened earlier today, did it, Gary?
Yeah, actually, I was on a panel for a group of people involved in pension management and whatever. It's sort of, we run the gamut from young people age of 5 all the way up to seniors who everybody's sort of anxious to learn more about how to manage their money.
There's a lot of conversation about making sure our kids are on the right path. That, you know, we teach them algebra, we teach them science, but we don't teach them the things like relationships or how to manage money. Are we getting better?
We are. There's actually a concerted effort across the country among all the provinces. We work all across the country with all of them. They're all anxious to do more. It's always difficult to bring about change. A lot of the efforts are in integration. Integration into our schools and whatever is a bit of a challenge because teachers haven't had the background in this, and it's always, more difficult to take on the task of teaching something if you aren't confident and comfortable with the subject matter. But there is a lot more going on. There are courses being developed. We're developing a course from Manitoba. There's a new compulsory module in Ontario. There's a new compulsory course in Quebec. There's new integrated programs here in Nova Scotia. So, yeah, we can be encouraged that I think it's not an easy road to hope, but there's a lot of effort going on in the schools. There's a ton going on outside of schools as well.
So what's your advice to parents or grandparents who want their kids or grandkids to have the right information, to be able to make smart decisions? I'm of the mind that, sometimes kids have to learn by making mistakes. But, when my son says, you let me buy all those Yu-Gi-Oh cards when I was a kid, that was money that was wasted. It's like, I couldn't have stopped you if I wanted to.
I don't think it's a bad way to learn, to be honest, especially if you're going to do it at a young age when the consequences in life are not great. We often retain more and learn more from mistakes we made than other things we learn along the way. So especially at a young age, and it relates to what I would often say to parents is the number one thing that I suggest that parents focus upon of all the things you could do. And that is, we talk about the importance of developing what we call a sense of self-efficacy. And that is a child's belief that they can set a goal and achieve it. If you empower a child, and they can start at a young age by saving up for something, they make trade-offs, I'm not going to get this because I'm saving for that. And then they realize the goal that they achieved, and you feel that takes care of a lot of the things we want to do in financial education. You want people to set goals, set a plan, make trade-offs, make a budget, do all the kinds of things that if you set that in motion, along with other things you can do, it's probably one of the most important things that parents can do with their kids.
We have as our guest in the studio this afternoon, Gary Rabbior, President of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. A lot of parents are saying, okay, do I give an allowance? If I give an allowance, should I also, if there's back to school, buy some new clothes? I'm wondering what's the best way to perhaps, again, give the right information, allow some flexibility, allow some ability to make mistakes, but yet, perhaps learn from them.
Yeah, and there's no prescription for it. Parents and their relationship with their children, and particularly in relationship to money, there's no prescription for what's right and what's wrong. There's a great opportunity to develop more understanding, more opportunity for discussion, more opportunity for learning. If you do provide your child with an allowance, especially if it's associated with some responsibilities and whatever, not that you're paid for the work or whatever, but there's a recognition for effort and whatever that coincides with money, which is a lifelong lesson we all tend to come to understand. So it's a good way to do it too.
What about online models or experiments or perhaps, modules, things that not every parent is going to feel comfortable teaching their kids about math. Mm-hmm. I'm sure just as many parents will be a bit concerned about trying to teach their kids about money.
We have a resource called Money and Youth, which is online and also in print format. We just did a revised version. Over 500,000 copies are in schools and homes across the country. That's free because I got to give a shout out to IG Wealth Management who supports it all. Mm-hmm. But it's a resource online too that parents can use. There are modules that have parent guides with them. So if they were to go to moneyandyouth.com, there's everything about considering your values, how to make decisions, to getting money, spending money, borrowing money, saving money, investing money, protecting money, sections all the way along. The big buys, education, cars, things like that. They can pick what they would like, and there's a parent guide to support them in their discussions and learning with their kids.
What do kids want to know about money? What do they want to learn?
Well, first of all, they want to learn about it. We surveyed about 6,000 youth across Canada, and we asked them, do you want to learn about money? If so, what would you like to learn? Where would you like to learn? Whatever. They were screaming for this. Actually, there was a video the Halifax School Board sent us a few years ago. They went to the bunch of 4-year-olds and asked them what they were going to learn in the big school next year, which was absolutely adorable. They were going to learn to tie their shoes and learn 10 languages. Then they went to the graduating class with their caps and gowns and said, what do you wish you'd learned about in school? And they sent it to us because without any solicitation, the overwhelming thing was money. Nobody taught us anything about money, how to handle money. Nobody taught us about taxes. They want to learn about this, and they want to learn what everybody else would want to learn, and that is understand how to manage it, how to look forward, what the different options are and choices are that we have. But they want to feel more informed as they enter into a life where money is so dominant. And one of the things we advocate too is that there's a lot of depression among young people these days, and there's a lot of compounding of that by social media where people inflate their lives, and kids in a relative context are feeling worse than others. And we really have to try to empower young people, I think, to understand all the influences that are going to come to bear on them, affecting their choices and how they feel about themselves, and prepare them to set their own limits, stay in control of their own lives, and not step over that barrier into stress that so many Canadians have found themselves, not wantingly, but by happenstance.
Gary Rabbior is here. He's the president of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. It is Financial Literacy Month. It says the 5 most important things to teach your kids about money. What are they?
One, as I mentioned, is self-efficacy. 2 is trade-offs. If you start thinking early in life that every decision I'm going to make with my money, I'm giving up something else today or in the future, and you take even a moment of pause to think about that, sort of like when you go into a mall, you see something, you say, I'll come back and get it. 99% of the time you don't. You're actually pausing to think about what the options are, even though maybe not consciously about it. Understanding the influences that are going to affect your life, understanding how advertising leads you to maybe buy things you otherwise wouldn't, and influences what your needs and wants are when you should be determining what your needs are and want. I would say appreciating the value of non-material things in life. You're going to make a lot of choices on matters related to money, but in the end, I think most people, when they're at that long distance down the road and look back on life, it's really friends, family, experiences, and whatever that were the most meaningful. And I think at an early stage in talking about money, if we can help young people appreciate the value of non-material things, I think that's also a very good lesson to be able to learn.
I was spending some time with my great nephew over the weekend. A commercial came on. He was like, ooh, I want to try that the next time I go to that restaurant. I mean, you can see a 10-year-old's influenced. I'd be hard-pressed to think adults are feeling that they're as vulnerable to that, but we all are.
Very much so. I mean, and not only that, but the influencers in our lives today are becoming very sophisticated, very well researched. People are learning how to affect people's behavior and decisions, and there's a lot of sort of behavioral economics that people are learning about. And unfortunately, if we don't educate our kids and educate ourselves to sort of balance that out some way, we're in a very disadvantageous position. Very sophisticated marketers, advertisers, promoters, and also fraudulent efforts as well. Mm-hmm. If we don't protect ourselves, then who's going to, right? And it's so easy to step beyond our comfort zone, out of living within our means and living those lives of stress that are manifesting itself in mental issues in this country too, as people experience prolonged periods of stress and anxiety.
Lots of stress. We have a few seconds left. I'm curious as to what you would give as advice for how much allowance kids should have.
Again, it's a very subjective thing. I mean, I wish it was prescriptive, but I think most parents would advocate that it's not a significant amount where they get into trouble. They feel that they don't want to get them into difficulty with their friends that are, that they're in a disproportionate position. I think a comfort zone, which is a modest amount, gives a sense of responsibility, allows for some lessons to be learned. But I wouldn't encourage excessive amounts, especially for a young child just starting to learn to manage money. But going back to your point, making mistakes at that early stage is not necessarily a bad thing.
Absolutely. He is Gary Rabbior, president of the Canadian Foundation for Economic Education. Workshops were hosted earlier today. And for more information, people should go where?
The CFEE.org is our general website, and moneyindyouth.com. They can get the resource all on financial literacy.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.